Vanessa, a 40-day-old baby, was too young to receive the vaccination for pertussis. What initially had appeared to be a normal cough and cold turned into moments where she stopped breathing. After she stopped breathing long enough to turn blue, her parents took her to the emergency room. The pediatrician knew right away that she had a highly contagious bacterial infection known as whooping cough. Vanessa spent 5 days in the ICU. Vaccination for pertussis is what could have prevented whooping cough. Since Vanessa was too young, she had to rely on what is called herd immunity. Herd immunity is when a large portion of the community is immunized against a contagious disease. Most members of the community are protected against that disease because there's little opportunity for an outbreak. In Vanessa's case, somebody in the community didn't vaccinate. Later, they found out it was someone at her brother's school. Today, I'm going to talk about vaccinations. I'm going to tell you the goal of the World Health Organization, why vaccinations are important, tell how they work, and address concerns of anti-vaxxers. In addition, I'm also going to show how modern anti-vaxxers were misled and when vaccinations should be given, and some tips to make shots less stressful for children. According to the most recent World Health Organization and UNICEF immunization estimates, 1 in 10 infants did not receive any vaccinations in 2016. This put them at serious risk for potentially fatal diseases. The percentage of children who received their full course of routine vaccinations has stopped climbing and remains at 86% since 2010. The global immunization coverage target is 90%, and we are at a worldwide standstill. 2 to 3 million deaths are prevented each year due to immunizations. The World Health Organization has declared it to be one of the most successful and cost-effective public health interventions. The recent resurgence of the anti-vaxxers has placed that 90% goal in jeopardy. So why are vaccinations needed? In 1964, an epidemic of rubella, also known as German measles, infected 12 million Americans. Of those 12 million, 2,000 babies died, and another 11,000 miscarriages happened. And since 2012, there have only been 15 cases of rubella reported to the CDC. Although diseases have lessened due to vaccinations, they're not completely gone, with one exception. Smallpox has been eradicated. America does have a high vaccination rate, but those who are not vaccinated are still able to get sick when exposed. If more people stopped getting vaccinated, then diseases would make a full comeback. For example, in Japan in 1974, there were less than 400 cases of whooping cough and 0 deaths. The vaccination rate at the time was 80%. And within 5 years, that rate dropped down to 10%. And in 1979, there were 13,000 cases of whooping cough and 41 deaths. Now, how do vaccinations work? The following excerpts from the CDC give a great overview. To understand how vaccines work, it is helpful to first look at how the body fights illness. When germs, such as bacteria or viruses, invade the body, they attack and multiply. This invasion is called an infection, and the infection is actually what causes the illness. The immune system uses several tools to fight infection. Blood contains red blood cells for carrying oxygen to tissues and organs, and white or immune cells for fighting infection. Vaccines help develop immunity by imitating an infection. This type of infection, however, does not cause illness, but it does cause the system to produce T lymphocytes and antibodies, which are part of the white cells. Now, there are many people who fear the safety of vaccinations, and that's understandable. And some believe that they cause illness. Side effects of vaccinations do exist, but they're generally minor and normal, such as a fever. The FDA, the Public Health Service, also known as the PHS, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, or the AAP, work to keep vaccinations as safe as possible. For example, something called Thermosol. It's a mercury-containing compound that prevents the growth of dangerous bacteria and fungus. It was removed from childhood vaccinations in 1999. This was not due to any illness or side effects, but as a precaution. The reason for its use is to prevent the growth of bacteria in the multi-use vials. And it is still used in multi-use flu vaccinations, just not in childhood vaccinations. In addition, the efforts of the FDA, PHS, and AAP, there's also a vaccination adverse event reporting system called VAERS. VAERS is a national vaccine safety surveillance program. It's monitored by both the CDC and the FDA. So any report of any adverse event is collected and then analyzed. There's about 30,000 reports per year, and the majority of those reports are the normal known side effects like that aforementioned fever. Now, the resurgence of the anti-vaccination movement can be traced back to a report that was published in 1998. In the paper, a doctor by the name of Andrew Wakefield and 12 of his colleagues suggested that the MMR, or measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, may be linked to autism. As soon as it was published, though, other published studies refuted his report. And 10 out of the 12 co-authors retracted the original paper, admitting that their data was insufficient. The Lancet, which is a medical journal, published the report. They did do a full retraction, but not until 2010, and it was only a small paragraph in the journal. The authors of the paper were found guilty of ethical violations, scientific misrepresentation, and deliberate fraud, as they picked and chose the data that suited them, as well as falsified facts. It appears that the fraud was committed for financial gain, as Dr. Wakefield was being funded by lawyers who were suing vaccine makers. Unfortunately, the damage from the paper remains relevant today, despite all of the evidence that disproves Dr. Wakefield's paper. The bottom line is that vaccines absolutely do not cause autism. The Academy of American Family Physicians, the AAP, and the CDC recommend a schedule of vaccinations throughout a person's life. The 2017 recommended schedule for ages birth to 6 years old can be found at most doctor's office or online, and here is an example of it. And the schedule should be at birth, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, and then again at 4 to 6 years. Parents are understandably bothered by the discomfort of a shot for their children. The CDC, the AAFP, and the AAP have developed tips for a less stressful shot visit. So here's the pamphlet, and in here it has things such as before getting the shot. Read the vaccination material to put yourself at ease so that you understand it. And if you have questions, jot them down and take them with you. If you have a smaller child, bring something of comfort for them, a blanket, a favorite book, a favorite toy. And use the older siblings as well to help out with that. For older children, be honest with them. Tell them that it may pinch a little, but it will go away. Engage other family members, such as that older sibling, to help support. And avoid telling scary stories or threats. Don't ever threaten your child with, if you don't behave, we're going to go get a shot.
No!
At the doctor's office, if you have any questions, ask your doctor or nurse. They'll be able to help you out. Okay. Smile and make eye contact with your child. Let them know everything's going to be okay. For babies, try swaddling or skin-to-skin contact. And offer a sweet beverage for an older child, about 6 months or older. And then, or if you have an infant, breastfeeding will also help soothe. During the appointment for older children, practice deep breaths with your child or blowing out the pain. Tell or read stories and support them if they cry. Never scold them for not being brave. And then after the shots, the area where the shot was given can get tender. So when they're old enough, if you need an over-the-counter medication for that, that's perfectly fine. But what also works are things such as a cool wet cloth to reduce that redness, and then a sponge bath to reduce any fever. And then pay extra attention for the next couple of days to make sure there aren't any adverse effects so that you can report it to VAERS if there are. So these tips from the CDC can help you soothe your child on the next shot visit. If you or your child are missing any vaccinations, make your appointment today. Doing so will help us reach that goal of 90% vaccination rate. Thank you.